Greetings, everybody. Welcome to Planet Minsk. I'm here, sitting in bed, getting stoned, as usual, um, waiting in a sea of cats. Um, so I'm here today to talk to you guys about some rather dark parts of my life, issues that some of you guys may have dealt with yourselves, but they have. I don't recommend any of these things necessarily, as I've probably said before. But let's see. As they're real parts of my life as a young man, and I faced some real consequences for a lot of these things. Um, and some of them, when you're like, for example, selling drugs. When you're young, and you end up having that money like that, um, and you're not really, you don't have the maturity to make smart decisions with it, you can land yourself in some pretty hairy places. And that kind of happened with me. I mean, that's kind of, I think, was a big factor that played into my eventual heroin addiction, which that I have to say, and I've been through a lot in my life. I've had lots of near death experiences. Um, I've been jumped by the gangs, police. I've nearly drowned. Gotten lost deep in the woods at night. I've gotten COVID, pneumonia, spinal meningitis. I've gotten steel poles shoved in my spine. None of it even comes close to the fear and the terror and panic and anxiety and the withdrawals, like the worst of anything, that comes along with heroin addiction. Is You've been the most. It's hard to describe. It's hard to even explain. What it has been like, but it turns your life into a living hell. Um, but anyways, I'll get started with the stories. So yeah, I mean, I guess it started with I mean, I would say I started selling drugs first, because I did start doing that in high school. Um, I mean, mostly I just sold pot, because, I mean, I guess by the time I was a senior in high school, I had started doing cocaine, but I knew that if I had bought a large amount of cocaine, I probably would end up using it, at the end of the night before making any money from it. Um, but with weed, even though I did smoke a good amount of weed, I was still able to control myself not to just smoke like blunt after blunt all day long because I had an ounce. And because, I mean, the beginning, I knew it wasn't my money. I knew that I had to get money back to somebody, or else, like, I was going to get my ass kicked. So, I learned, I guess, how to do that correctly pretty early on. Um, then, if you've watched my videos before, by the end of my junior year in high school, I ended up getting arrested. And fortunately, I didn't go to jail. I mean, I did have to go. I was, in a holding cell for a night, but I didn't have to do any time. Um, and so but anyways, like, I guess my legal troubles had cleared up by a couple months into my senior year. So most of my senior year still, I got to have fun that you're supposed to as a high school senior. I got into a lot of trouble. I probably did a lot more than I probably should have as a high school senior, but um, I mean, that's life. But anyways, I mean, my real troubles didn't start till, I mean, I had started doing a lot of cocaine by the end of my senior year. I mean, I remember my like all pretty much, and I had been selling drugs, so I'd been making a good amount of money too. But all I made a bunch of money from my graduation, probably about $3,000. But by the end of the summer, it was all gone. I'd spent pretty much all of it on drugs. And my friends, they had saved the money. They all went on a trip to Amsterdam, and they ended up probably spending a lot of money on drugs there too. But like they got to all go on this trip together, that I missed out on. Which would have been, going to Amsterdam at 18. I'm sure we would have from the stories that they've told me, it sounded like they had some crazy experiences. But and like I guess at that age, seeing just like weed in stores everywhere. I mean, now I guess at least I'm appreciative that I can experience that now in DC. But and hopefully someday I'll go to Amsterdam. I mean, that's why yeah, I mean, and that's another reason, being strung out for, so long as an adult, it's made it very hard for me to travel. Like, even being on methadone now, it's like I have to go to my clinic. I mean, I can earn take homes, and now the clinic I'm at now, I can, like, if I do have to go on a trip, they will give me take homes for a certain amount of days. But still, it's made travel very difficult, and like I rarely have money, so like I can't really take vacations. But anyways, so after high school, I went off to college. And that was pretty short lived. I went to art school in. Sorry, guys, my memory is horrible. This is another reason you shouldn't do drugs. But yeah, I went to art school in Philadelphia at University of the Arts. I actually got a scholarship for graphic design. And I mean, I know college is supposed to be kind of crazy, so I was expecting kind of the typical college experience. So I went there like, ready to fucking party, and like, we would just, get drunk and like, I made a bunch of friends pretty quickly. And I guess I found some drugs there, but I wanted to try and stay away from cocaine at the beginning because I didn't want to ruin like the fun of high school with me just like going into something beyond my control and just spending all my money, and it just would have been ugly. But I guess I got into a lot of trouble pretty early on. There was this one night where I had gotten really, I guess, pretty blackout drunk. And I guess the drugs that I had found, I'd found some like somebody had sold me some like prescription cough syrup shit, like a little vial of it, basically like codeine cough syrup. And I had gotten really drunk that night too. I ended up waking up, I guess, like really hungover at like I probably like 6 in the morning. It was like right when the sun was coming up, and I had this habit when I was hungover in high school, that if I was gonna like just start projectile vomiting, I would go all the way down. I was at the top floor of this building. I would go all the way down to the alley outside of the building, and I would puke in this alley. I don't know. I guess the fresh air helped me, like, revive me a little bit. But on this particular day, I had realized coming back up that I had forgotten my key, or my, I guess, card to get into the room. I guess we had some sort of like key card. So I noticed that my neighbor's door was unlocked, and I was friends with these girls who are our neighbors, so it's not like they were strangers. But still, this was, pretty stupid of me to do. Very, very stupid. This probably could have been. This constitutes as one of maybe my near-death experiences. But I started rumbling through their pots and pans and shit, and I found a spatula. And they're like, Matt, what the fuck are you doing? It's like 6 in the morning. And I go over to the window, and I start trying to like climb out the side of the window because I had this idea that I'm going to use a spatula to open my window and climb from their window into my window, but from like 6 stories up. Um, and they ended up talking me out of this. And they're like, don't worry about it. Like we'll get the RA, and I'm sure they have a key and they can let you in. So I agreed to that. I was rational enough that I can be talked out of like trying to climb out, like do some like Spider-Man trick to get into my window. Like I know that I'm not a fucking spider human, and that I would probably drop to my death in that process. So they go and get the RA. I end up passing out in front of my doorstep while I'm waiting for the RA. So he lets me in. And I guess they're pissed about that. So they set up this meeting with the judicial officer of the school with me, and I talk to him. And then I know that I'm probably in some sort of trouble, so I stash my weed in one of my friend's dorms, and then they have like their security come in and search like all my shit. The only thing they found was that empty bottle of the cough syrup thing, but still, like they gave me a hard time about that. And they were able to like I had my mom try and vouch for me. I feel bad about this. She said that it was just cough syrup that they gave me to go to school with because I have like bad cough from smoking. But they didn't believe it. I ended up getting and because then there was this other time that there were a couple times that I got in trouble at the dorm after that, just for really stupid things. Like, I guess one time when we were smoking in one of my friend's rooms, and then this other time where these girls were clearly like just like partying and drinking vodka in their room downstairs because the whole first floor smelled like vodka. But they searched me when I was coming out, and I had like an empty bottle of wine in my backpack. Basically, I ended up getting evicted from the dorms. So I would have been allowed to continue going to school, but I would have had to find my own place to live. But it really wasn't going well. Like I wasn't doing well in school. So ultimately, I decided to drop out. So I came back to DC. And then I realized, all my friends, like, or not all my friends, but some of my friends who were like my friend Chris, who was kind of my drug dealing partner. He was still around. My other friend was still around, and we would kind of like my friends who I would do drugs with, I guess essentially. So I got right back to selling, and I made a good amount of money pretty quickly. So I was pretty self-sufficient. But like my relationship with my parents started to kind of deteriorate. I ended up dating this girl that, and so I probably shouldn't bring who she was into it, but I was living in one of the embassy buildings in downtown DC because I started like things gotten so bad with my parents that I had pretty much just left home. And it was around that time that I had started doing heroin. Because we were my buddy was who was kind of my drug dealer partner. He had started kind of doing it, and since we were kind of selling drugs together at that point, he was selling it, and it was before I dropped out of school. It was probably one of the times that I'd come home in those couple of months, because we had kind of started selling it a little bit in that summer before I went to school, but I never touched it. But I had started doing painkillers kind of. But then one time going back to school, I was like, I had a very stressful day, and I was like, can we go get some painkillers? And he was like, dude, why don't you just like try some of this heroin? It's like the same thing. And so I did, and that was the first time. I'll probably have to get more into this later because it looks like I only have like 15 seconds left in the video, but I guess more next time. Next time I'll go into like how heroin addiction has kind of blown my life apart. But Till next time, guys. Peace.